everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Alan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is your host, Alan Langer, and we are at episode 35 tonight. And we've got a really interesting guest because we cover, obviously, a lot of marketing, a lot of sales, a lot of leadership kind of stuff on this podcast. But we've actually got a business specialist tonight who really specializes in customer service. And I think you're going to get a lot out of this, especially for the small business owners that are in the audience listening. So pull up a chair and pay attention, because I've got Dr. Kelly Henry with me tonight. And Dr. Kelly, I'm going to have him tell you about his background in a little bit. But he does have years and years of experience, not only running his own businesses, but now helping other businesses really increase their revenue and their win rate. So I got Dr. Kelly coming up in a second. But before we get to him, a couple of notes. The website is marketingandsalespodcast.com, marketingandsalespodcast.com. We actually have a great question that was sent in from Steve from Morristown, New Jersey, coming up at the end of the podcast, and it's specific to small business. So it's a really cool question that Dr. Kelly is going to answer later on. Okay, but if you have a question, you want to send it in to me, go to the website, go to the contact page, send me the question. If we choose it, I read it on the air. You get a free autographed copy of my book, and Steve will be getting a book sent to him relatively soon. Okay, that is all of the niceties out of the way. Dr. Kelly Henry, how are you tonight? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I am doing well tonight. Thank you.
This is Kelly. Can I call you Kelly, or you prefer Dr. Kelly? Kelly's good?
Just call me Kelly. Kelly's good.
All right. This is Kelly's third podcast today, so hopefully he makes it through. I hope I won't put him to sleep.
No, it's all good.
But he's a popular guy, and really known pretty well in the small business industry. Let me just read a couple of things from his bio here. He actually said in his bio, he's 20 plus years having a award-winning chiropractic business, correct? And you had more than one office. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how you got into that?
Well, long story short, graduated chiropractic school in the late 90s, moved to Arizona and failed miserably, and had the opportunity to move to New Mexico, where my wife is from, and bought out a retired chiropractor. And so I had some income, moved along that way, got a coach a few years down the road from that. The community we moved to in New Mexico, smaller community, most businesses been in business for many years, didn't really see the need for great customer service, and that bugged the crud out of me. So it was very, very quick when we moved there, within a few weeks, maybe a month or two, that I decided, you know what, I am tired of being treated like this. I'm going to do things different in my practices, and made a very conscious decision to have great customer service as a part of my clinic model. And that certainly helped me tremendously through the years, and laid the foundation and really put me on the journey I am now. So fast forward, I built my clinics up, did very well, was able to sell them out in 2018. Like I mentioned, I'd been coached for years, and I saw the impact and how valuable that was to me and my businesses. And I'm still coached to this day, to be honest with you. And I knew the impact of customer service and how important that was in the growth and the success of my businesses. So I retired, knew I wanted to coach, and I knew I wanted to coach customer service. So here I am now.
Wow, I love that, and you said something there that's important. I think even the most successful people should have coaches, and I think a lot of the successful people still do, because you just don't know what you don't know, and it's always good to have that second person, or that a coach, a good coach to guide you and help you and bump and run, bounce some things off of and things like that. So I have a coach myself, and people wonder like, oh, you've been doing this in sales for 30 years. Why do you need a coach? I'm like, trust me, it helps.
It does.
It really does. So I did want to mention I am drinking tequila tonight because this is Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, because Kelly this is podcast number 3. I think he's retired to some water, but that's okay. But you do have to do a virtual cheers with your water. So there you go. I'm going to have my reposado, and we are going to get into some customer service. And you said something really cool about customer service. And here's I think that strikes such a nerve with people, lack of customer service. And here's why I say that. I think it's just the general perception is I don't think people expect good customer service in general. I just don't think they expect it. I did it, and I do videos on LinkedIn. Okay. I did a LinkedIn video. It literally was some of my videos I map out, I write a script, I spend time doing it. This one, I call the company, my son is getting a car delivered, and it was supposed to come in. I think I called it on Monday, and they didn't deliver the car, and it was coming from another state. And I called up and I'm like, where's the car? And they're like, oh, we're just flat out. We're just so busy. We're sorry. We'll get it there. And I was like, well, that's not my problem that you're busy. You told me Monday. So it got me so fired up. I did a video, one take, and I said, here's what you should never say to a customer. I'm too busy. And you know what? That LinkedIn video has over 5,000 views. It went viral because I struck a nerve.
And I watched that video. So
did you really?
That was an excellent video. That you hit the nail on the head. That is
right.
For sure.
Yeah. So talk about that. Like what that's obviously is something you don't want to tell a customer, but it's just the perception is reality sometimes.
And you hit the nail on the head with that video. And you said, customers don't give a crud. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care that you're so busy that you can't fulfill what you're supposed to be doing that I've requested you to do or paid you to do. That is not an excuse.
Yep.
Now, you can say things from a business standpoint of, Mr. So-and-so, Alan, I am so sorry. We got backed up. We should have contacted you and let you know that it's a little bit of delay on getting that car. Again, we greatly apologize. We want to make it up to you. We're going to give you a $50, Visa gift card or something like that for gas and make things right. Mm-hmm. That's how you handle those situations. You don't say, I agree. You don't say, we're just so busy, too bad for you. Well, we'll get your car to you when we get to you, just hold tight. That to me is the business is not there for the customer. It's the customer that's there for the business. And that is the wrong attitude to take and have. So, and that ticks people off, and that shoves people out the door to never do business with you again.
Yeah. And what it did, it reminded me, and I put this in the video, of what I did to a customer 3 or 4 years previous, where I was hired to do a certain amount of work and I was late and I was flat out crazy busy. And I told him, like, I'm sorry. I forgot what his name was at this point, but I'm like, I'm sorry. I missed it. I'm just flat out. And he said to me, I don't give a crap that you're busy. I could give a crap that you have other customers. And then he said, and I'll never forget this, if I knew you were this busy, I would have never hired you.
Okay.
And that really punched me in the face. And I'm like, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I've never told, even if I was too busy, I never told another customer that sentence again, never left my mouth.
Absolutely. And that was my philosophy in my clinics, my chiropractic clinics. I got busy and we got backed up a little bit, and I hated being backed up and I hated having patients wait. But we always wanted to know and let them know that we were still respectful of their time, that we apologize. Hey, if they couldn't wait, that 15, 20 minutes, like they had to wait, if we could reschedule them and get them in. But we wanted to be proactive and let them know, hey, we got backed up. It was my fault. It was the doctor's fault. Didn't matter why, it was my fault. How can we handle this for you to make it a positive experience?
Yeah. And people don't want to hear excuses. Excuses are just hollow. They never, and even if the excuse is real, they don't want to hear it. You're right. No. So tell me, so you go into a company and you start evaluating things. Take us through your process and what you find and how you start to fix it usually.
I do just that. I call it an audit. It's kind of a dirty word because you generally think of, IRS when you think audit, but we audit the businesses from a customer service standpoint. So we want to look at all the processes. We want to look at, are we training? Are we looking at this, just down the line, obviously. And so we want to find the holes. And most of the time we find a lot of holes. And so we want to look at the holes and see which holes are the biggest that we can plug the fastest, plug the quickest, that'll make the greatest impact initially and start driving that perception up, but also start driving profits up very quickly. So we want to fill in those holes very quickly. Then we want to add in my program and my actions and the philosophies and groundwork that I have in my program. And so we'll kind of backfill and get all that set up. Then we want to look at the individual business, because obviously every business is different. Even if it's same industry, the business owner, there'll be different flavors and takes to it. So we want to look at that and adjust and refine depending on the business and how they run things, and make adjustments and maybe put pieces in specific for that business if the owner chooses to do that. And then we just step back, we monitor, we maintain, we adjust accordingly, just so we continue to increase the success that the foundation that we put into place, continue that the success that foundation has created.
Okay, so 2 questions. What holes do you normally see when you go into a business? And my second question is, are the owners of these businesses contacting you because of those specific holes, or are they contacting you and then you're finding other areas in their business that's not working?
Usually they contact me because they're plateaued, they're struggling in the business.
Okay.
They're spending more money marketing and making less money. They've plateaued, they're struggling along those lines. They can't figure out why.
Okay.
We've done this, and this. What's going on? It's almost, not always, but sometimes it seems like a last resort. I'll just try this because maybe that's the problem, and voila, we found something here. So that's something they looked at. One of the biggest holes that we find consistently, is just how the employees are not valued like they should be in a business. And it's not to the standpoint where, the owner or the managers are cracking the whip and it's, ruling with an iron fist kind of situation. They're just not, they don't look at the employees like an asset. And that goes back to when I was in business. And there was a time where I got off track on this, and my thoughts were my employees were liabilities. And my job
that's how you thought about your employees?
They were liabilities. They were just there to collect a paycheck. I needed to be on top of them and correct them every little thing they were doing wrong. And one of my coaches called me out on that and said, listen, you gotta change your attitude and start looking at your employees as assets.
Yeah.
And start recognizing all the good that they're doing and acknowledging that to them and reinforcing that so they continue to do the right things, because they're doing way more good and right than they're doing bad.
Sure.
And once I did, that was a game changer in my offices, and obviously for a lot of the businesses I'm working at. But it's just making that little shift of look at them, look at the employees as an asset, value them, acknowledge that they're doing so good, make them feel important and special. And then in turn, those employees are going to start treating the customers better. They're going to treat the employees with that, or excuse me, the employees will treat the customers with the value. So it's foolish to think that you can not treat the employees well, but have them turn around and treat the customers well. It just doesn't work that way. So you've got to set that up correctly, and that's usually one of the biggest holes that we have to get readjusted. And really, that's one that if it's there, that's the one we need to correct immediately.
Sure.
Because if it's not, it'll undermine everything else that we're trying to put in place, and ultimately make the whole foundation of customer service less effective.
Yeah, I mean, the ripple effect, you're right. It goes, if you got unhappy employees and they don't really care about making the customers happy and on and on and on. So
exactly.
Do you run into, I was doing it's funny when I get into an organization and I normally do some sales training, but you always find out other things about the organization that's happening. And I came from the in-home construction field, windows, doors, siding, roofing. I cut my teeth doing that. And I've done a lot of training in those organizations. And what I see is a lot of passing the buck, or a lot of the blame game within the organization. And man, that's like a cancer. I mean, it's just like, I remember this one time, this rep was really having a rough time. He's like, look what we have to deal with. And the email he was looking at was from the service director saying, who's paying for the hardware? This was a sales mistake. Like, he was just like, every sentence in his email was blaming someone, and nowhere in the email, because I said to him, like, no one is saying who's taking care of the customer here. The customer's there with the wrong product, and everybody's trying to figure out who's to blame in the company. It was crazy. So do you run into that?
Yes. And that's a big one. And that's just another customer service killer. And that's a huge hole that you got to fill. And that's part of what I work with clients is it's everybody's responsibility.
Yeah. Right,
everybody's responsibility. And the whole employee, everybody's part of the team. So it doesn't matter if you drop the ball or I drop the ball, or, Susie dropped the ball. It doesn't matter.
Right.
We're all part of the team. It's all our fault. So it's all our responsibility to take care of this problem and make it right for the customer.
Right.
So everybody has blood in the game that way. But yeah, as soon as you start playing the blame game, just like you said, that's a cancer, and it'll pretty much ruin your customer service, or the perception that you have any kind of good customer service with your customers.
Yeah. So you mentioned once you find the holes and everything, you start implementing your program. So tell us about that. What does your program entail? Are there specific components of it, or is it really catered toward each individual business?
There's very specific components. And what I've done is I've broke it down to basically the 4 biggest pieces or actions that will create the greatest impact for the customer. So if you can do these 4 things, this is what the customer wants. This is what will drive up their perception that your business has great customer service. Thus, create retention, create loyalty, create increased profits, referrals, all the beautiful things that go along with improving your customer service. So one is the team atmosphere, like I just mentioned. That's a big one. We got to put that in place. Second thing is the service mindset, and then putting several pieces of specific service actions into place. Being more friendly, smiling, enthusiasm, it goes on and on. There's about 30 action items that we work through to implement.
Wow, 30, really? Wow.
Yeah, and there's nothing that's that difficult.
Right.
They're simple, but it has to be done consistently, and that's the key. The third part of it is that you've got to make sure you are on point with service recovery.
And what does that mean exactly?
Well, it means when the business messes up, you have got to have a plan and action steps to take care of that customer. And what's unique about that is when businesses mess up, even the best customer service businesses, they're going to mess up. It's human nature. It happens. But when you have action steps put into place where you can own up to it, like you said, don't pass the buck, take responsibility for it, do it to the satisfaction of the customer, do it quickly and do it empathetically, you make those customers that had the problem, those customers have a higher level of loyalty to that business.
Sure.
They're the ones that are really the mouthpiece. They're the ones that refer, and they're the ones that will fight to the death before they leave your business.
Right.
So I'm not advocating you mess up and try to screw things
mess up on purpose and then fix
exactly.
it.
That's not what I'm advocating. But you want to be on point when there's been a service problem, some kind of issue, and take care of it appropriately. And then the last piece is being more efficient and faster. Any area you can in your business to speed the process, to be more convenient, to eliminate the roadblocks, the obstacles for customers to do business with you or while they're doing business with you. We live in a fast-paced microwave society that's not going to change. So anytime you can make your business more convenient and quicker and more expeditious and taking care of your customers, providing them service, providing them products, whatever the case may be, they're going to love you for it, and they'll actually pay more for it. And a lot of times they'll look at that above and beyond you being friendly and some of these other things. If you can do that in an efficient manner, they'll look at that and they'll pay for it just because it saves them time.
And I think being expeditious and actually returning a call or figuring out a way to send a text back, it goes back to the perception that that's not going to happen. So when it does, it's even more exciting to the customer because like, oh my God, they responded in the same day. That's unbelievable. And you're
Absolutely.
right. It's just because the expectation in customer service is just so low. Unfortunately,
customer service is exactly, it's so low that, people, average customer service seems like it's outstanding,
right?
And people just expect that it's cruddy. The statistic is that roughly 80% of businesses in the United States provide at best average, and then it just goes down from there. 80%. So the vast majority, that's
average and down.
That's where they're at. And so again, it just feels like the norm when you just get, mediocre customer service. Well, that's just the way it is. And, we just deal with it. But those businesses that go above and beyond and jump their customer service to above average and up into superior, those are the ones that reap the massive benefits of doing so.
Absolutely. And you see them too. You look at, the NPS scoring system now and all that kind of stuff with Ritz-Carlton and Apple and all these companies that are way up there with these super high NPS scores. It comes down to how they treat their customers and how the customers feel dealing with their brand and everything. So do you ever run, no, I shouldn't say ever, I know you do. How do you handle, so you go in and you have to change, you're looking at changing a culture quite often, I would assume.
That basically is.
Yeah. So that's not an easy thing to do, to walk in and say, here comes Dr. Kelly. Okay. All you guys suck. You don't know what you're doing. How do you actually get everybody on board and point it in the right direction?
Well, it has to come from the top down. And so I train the trainers first. I train the owners first. I train the managers first. That's where it has to come from. They can't be, the owners, that's a great idea. We should implement that. Just go train my staff. No, it's got to be engraved in the owner's mind, the manager's mind, the upper level, that yes, we need to do this. This needs to be a culture shift. This needs to be a foundation principle of this business. And then we can implement and start training the staff out from that. But that's where it has to start. I refuse just to train staff because it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
They'll get a little bit of benefit from it, but ultimately it's flavor of the month. It's a new shiny object.
Yep.
The consistency won't be there. There's nobody backing it up, and it's basically worthless. So we have to be real careful with that. And that's the biggest piece that needs to be in place there, that it has to come from the top down, and it has to be solid from the top to work down through the business. Because like you said, it has to be a cultural shift. It has to be part of the foundation. It just can't be something that sounds good for a couple of weeks. And, I read about it last week and, we should try this out, give it a shot kind of thing. No.
Let's have the guy come in for an hour and we'll be good after that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's like the, when I asked to come in for sales training, they say, can you come in and talk to us for an hour? I'm like, well, yeah, it's not going to do anything. They're going to, we'll have a nice talk for an hour, but it's not going to move your needle at all. If you want me to actually do some training, it's going to be some training. It starts with you, exactly what you do. It starts with the management, and then I go down from there. I can't just start with the reps and then hope you guys, show up later. So we're on the same page on that one. So I'm going to, this is a good segue because we're talking about culture, and I normally keep this to the end, but I want to ask you the question of the week that came in because it has to do with an employee that this gentleman is having an issue with. And this is so cool. I told Kelly, I think the universe sends me questions right when they know what kind of guests I'm going to have, because I've never, ever in the 35 weeks I've been doing this have gotten a question about how to handle an employee, because it's a marketing and sales podcast. And today, this morning, I got a question about how to handle an employee, and I'm like, I have Kelly on tonight. So this is perfect. All right. So here's the question. I'm going to read it to the audience, and Kelly is going to give us the answer. And I guarantee you, every business owner who's listening to this has had or has this problem. All right, here we go. This comes from Steve in Morristown, New Jersey. He writes, if you ever have a business specialist, please ask him or her this question. Steve writes, I own 4 dry cleaners in the Morristown, New Jersey area. I've got great employees except for one. but he's been with me the longest. He was the manager of all 4 places when I bought the business 4 years ago. He undermines me, to say the least. How do I let him go, and what do I do from here? That is quite a question. So there you go. I'm throwing that hardball right to you, Dr. Kelly.
Right. 3 different things with this situation. One is it's difficult to take on employees when you buy out a business.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to buy out 2 chiropractic offices. Fortunately, I didn't have to take on employees. Well, I take that back. I did have to take on employees, and it worked out all right. I did have to take on a lot of patients that expected me to be like the other chiropractors. Finally, I just, hey, listen, this is me. This is how I do things. So you're just gonna have to get used to that. And that may be part of the issue there with the manager, that, hey, I'm not the previous owner. This is how I do things. You're gonna have to get used to the way I'm doing it.
Right.
The second thing that you got to be careful of is, or that you need to look at, and that's what I mentioned just a moment ago, when you're trying to change the atmosphere for the employees and look at them as assets. So, okay, you got this manager undermining you. If you feel like it's worth the effort, really try to layer on the praise and acknowledge that he is doing a great job, that, hey, I really appreciate you, what you've done in this business, and, keep up the good work. Even though deep inside you're feeling like, oh, I can't stand this guy, but just try kind of that reverse psychology. I've seen that work with employees that aren't so great, where you really just really acknowledge that they're doing a great job, really try to build them up, and it can change their attitude. They change their attitude towards you, and they start being, like I said, an asset, and start wanting to work with you and be loyal to you. Mm-hmm. So that's a thought on a way you can approach it.
Okay.
Now, if that's not going to work, you don't even want to try that. You just don't think it'll work, and you need to fire them. There's nothing wrong with that, because that one unloyal, unruly employee can really kill customer service. Because, like you mentioned, you've used the term, it's like a cancer. Well, in a way, that's kind of a cancer throughout a business, because they're keeping the other employees from focusing on what needs to be focused on. And in the back of their mind, they're not going to be quite as loyal and buy into the whole team atmosphere. So you have to be real careful with that. And in that case, yeah, you need to let them go. I never fired an employee.
Okay.
I let a lot of employees go, but I never fired them.
Well, he did right. How do I let him go? So at least he has the
there you go. So, and all I did was, you just say, hey, I appreciate what you've done here. You've done fantastic. But you're just not right for this job anymore. The way we're going, and I need to go a different direction. So that being said, I'm going to have to let you go. I always left the employee with the fact that I would give them a great recommendation as they tried to find other employment. And I would do that for them, even if I never lied on a recommendation. I just would not mention the points that were down. I would highlight the good points, but that's how I would do it. And oftentimes when you do that, it's just like a weight lifted off your shoulders, and oftentimes too, when you let the employee go, it's a weight lifted off them too, because more than likely they're just not happy in the job. That's not, they don't want to. They're collecting a paycheck, and it's too much a pain to go trying to find a different job, so they're just stuck with being unhappy. You let them go; it's the catalyst for them to go find a different job, to move on, and to find somewhere that they can be happy. And most of the time, really, it's a win-win for both parties.
Yeah. And it's, I think we've all been in a situation where you've worked with someone, whether it's a manager or even a coworker, and they just don't have the energy. It's all negative. It's usually negative, or it's not a positive, fun working environment. And you notice 2 things. One, if they're off one day, it's a different day. It's like people are happier. Or if when they finally leave, you're like, oh my God, like you said, it's a weight lifted off. But it's amazing how one person can affect almost an entire company. If it's like in one building, they can ruin the culture of an entire company. One person. It's pretty powerful.
Unfortunately, it is that powerful, and you have to be careful with that. One of my philosophies for hiring, obviously this is a little different situation. That person was there, but philosophy for hiring, rule number one is hire attitude first. Now, there's all kinds of different positions you hire for. If it's more of a technical position, you're looking at certain skills, and that's fine. But if it's a business where that employee is going to be customer fronting, facing, higher attitude first, and then you can train generally everything else behind that for the most part.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can find that, that attitude, that great positive, bubbly attitude and personality to go along with with the technical skills, whatever you want. And that's, just hitting a home run. But if you had to choose between the two, you want to go with the attitude first.
Wow. This is really cool stuff, and I'm sure it's been really helpful for everyone. So we're actually almost at 30 minutes already. So I want to if you had to, like I said, I know you have your 4-step system and it's very specific, but I like my guests to leave one golden nugget for my audience. If you had to say, now your wheelhouse is customer service. So tomorrow morning, if people are going to wake up and do something about their customer service, what would that one thing be that you would tell them to do?
Absolutely. Use this as your mission statement in your business starting tomorrow. And this is my mission statement in my clinics, and this is what I recommend with all my clients, and all of them have adopted to this point, is to have this philosophy, this mission statement, be the best part of the customer's day. Be the best part of the customer's day. When they come into you, you want to be the best part of their day. And to me, that encompasses basically everything positive about customer service. So if you have that philosophy, you have that mindset, you're going to smile, you're going to be friendly, you're going to, try to do whatever you can to help them out. You're going to take responsibility. Like I said, everything will encompass underneath that philosophy, under that mission statement. Be the best part of the customer's day. The thing I like to think about too is you never know what's going on with a customer, a client, a patient. You don't know their hardships. You don't know the kid is sick, or the parent has died, or the car broke down, or whatever the case may be. And then certainly the times we're living in right now, there's extraordinary, unfortunate circumstances, and so you need to think in their shoes and or be in their shoes and see things through their eyes and understand that customer that comes in that's upset, or just doesn't talk, or just looks like they're sad. There's a reason for that. And your job is not to ignore them and not to feed into them being upset. Your job is to try to put a smile on their face. Just something simple as that. Give them a compliment, put a smile on their face, but try to be the best part. Be that breath of fresh air, be that ray of sunshine for that, however long they interact with you during that day. Take a little bit of weight off their shoulders, make them feel good about themselves. And that goes a long ways. And that ripples out from your business into their day, into the interactions they have with those that they come in contact after they leave your business. So again, be the best part of the customer's day. That will go a long ways.
I that's one of the best things I've heard on this podcast. I absolutely love it. I think everyone should actually have that sign hanging in their office, in the customer service area. When they get an angry person on the phone, look up and see that sign and take a deep breath and try to turn that person around who's angry at something, rather than going right back at them or starting the blame game as we mentioned. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Kelly, this has been really awesome. Be the best part of the customer's day is going on my wall. Even though I'm a solopreneur, so my customers are pretty happy. So I don't really have too many issues with customer service, but I really like that. I like that. Be the best part of everyone's day. You can even take it one step further.
Absolutely.
That is really, I really like
relationship.
that. Yeah. And any relationship, I really, really like that. So thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So
You're welcome.
We are going to call it a night. This has been great. I know this is podcast number 3 for you, so I'll let you go. It's a late night for me as well, but this has been really good. I want to thank you for joining me. And I also want to thank everyone here who stepped in and listened to episode 35 of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is Alan Langer, your host. Remember, the website is marketingandsalespodcast.com. Send me a question, just like the great question we got from Steve today, and you will get a free book from me with my signature on. It's going to be worth a lot of money someday. Trust me. So, Dr. Kelly, I really appreciate you being with us. You have a good night. And everybody out there in podcast land, you have a good night as well. We will see you next time.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.